I am Ari Melber, and we're reporting on some uncharted territory as Donald Trump awaits sentencing. He did his mandated interview with a probation officer today. Part of his life as a convicted felon. These meetings are a staple of the legal world. The procedure can impact potential jail sentencing, and it's widely known in legal and pop culture.
My probation officer is a joke. His name is David Crockett.
Teresa, oh my God. You're going to throw something at me, Teresa? Really? Aren't you on parole?
Plus, I still get money. Yes, I ball.
I am your parole officer, and I just want to help you.
How the hell are you supposed to help me, man?
And if my P.O. asks, I hang drywall.
Settle down. I know that you might not be able to relate to me, but I think I know somebody who you can relate to. Little homie. What up?
The judge said don't trouble nobody. Probation said don't trouble nobody.
Don't trouble nobody. Good rule of thumb. Probation is just part of the system, and reporting into your PO can be a recurring experience, as Jelly Roll mentioned in that classic freestyle. While probation and parole officers are part of the oversight that's designed to get convicts to fly straight. There aren't usually puppets involved. That was Key and Peele's take on it. But it is a real process, and Trump is compelled to participate in this process, doing this interview today like anyone else. We could tell you he participated virtually today. It lasted just under 30 minutes, and they finished up at the end of the day. This was a scoop first broken by NBC News. We will tell you most convicts attend in person, but legally there's nothing physical about attendance. Courts have been doing more virtual proceedings since the pandemic era, and Trump was able to virtually participate. He also had his attorney there, an option most convicts are not afforded. So on the one hand, today is a continuation of a routine thing. On the other, it serves as a vivid example of the system working. Trump made many claims and threats across his 4 criminal cases. A year ago, he had people speculating what would happen if he defied calls to turn himself in for his mugshot and booking in the RICO case, for example, or if he just defied the rules to attend trials. He had people asking and discussing what would happen, but guess what? As the nation just saw, this defendant, and now convict, is subject to the law. He sat through every hour of this trial, just as he sat in court awaiting his verdict given by a jury of his peers, just as he is awaiting sentencing, and just as he sat down today with his PO.
Former President Trump, well, he's got a date with his probation officer today.
Something no former president has ever done. Donald Trump will sit for a pre-sentencing interview with his probation officer.
Giving a New York City probation officer the chance to ask Trump about everything from his finances to his mental state.
Like many other defendants, he does have multiple other open felony cases.
This is an important day in the sentencing process.
The probation officer will deliver a report to Judge Merchan, who will use it when determining Trump's sentence next month.
And these interviews can inform sentencing. Trump's lawyers, of course, pushing to have him avoid any jail time at all. We know Trump's interview today was short. It lasted less than 30 minutes. In general, these things include questions about a convict's criminal history, finances, mental health, addiction, and inquiries about associating with known criminals, like individuals who are criminal associates or have criminal records. That last one may sound more like a question for a gang or mafia member, not someone who could run the federal government again and have the nuclear codes. But again, this just wrapped today. If the court officer did ask Trump about his criminal associates, okay, how do we think that would go? Here's one way to answer, factually. Trump is a convicted felon, atop 3 different organizations full of felons, some of them in prison right now, like his CFO and White House aide Navarro, who you see there under the 20 campaign. Others are out, but got better treatment only because Donald Trump intervened for them as president. So if the PO asked Donald Trump to list out criminal associates, people who work for him that have been convicted, you see how long that would take? And that's just those convicts. If the PO also asked about other people with cases and indictments, well, the list grows longer. Some of these lawyers you see on the screen aren't on that other list because they haven't all yet been convicted, and they may not be, but they have a lot of other legal problems, some disbarred, some indicted in multiple states. And one of the prosecutors who actually won one of those key cases previewed this very line of questioning.
He'll be asked about whether he is associating with criminals. And I mean, this is sort of remarkable. He's going to have to sort of discuss whether he still coordinates with Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Steve Bannon. Remember, all of those people have been found guilty by a jury and are felons themselves.
True. Now, that's the possible tough part there that may have gone down in today's interview, again, based on what we know about this pretty regular process and the kind of questions that are asked. It would be odd, for example, for a PO to ask only about someone's access to money and finance and never raise any of the criminal associations questions. But again, this just happened. We don't have a full readout yet. There are also precedents here with possible good news for the convict. The fact remains that Trump is a first-time offender in this case. Now, if he were convicted in any of those other 3 pending criminal trials I mentioned, he would lose that traditional leniency. But as for right now in New York, he's a first offender. And this is a nonviolent offense where most cases have not landed people in prison with similar business fraud convictions. Trump has a chance here, as the New York City official court website puts it, to make a good impression in your pre-sentence report to explain why the person might deserve a, quote, lighter punishment. And I want to be clear, legally, there are grounds, valid grounds, for a person in this position to try to get that lighter punishment. You could bet any competent lawyer would tell a convict in this position, tread lightly and do your best to make a humble and positive set of cases and answers when you sit down with the PO today. That is just one key part, and for Donald Trump personally, one of the last parts he has to do before he does learn his fate and is sentenced in this process next month. Joined now by Mona Lisa Weber, a former probation officer in the Florida Department of Corrections, who knows her way around this process that many are revisiting or learning about today, and Molly Jong-Fast, a Vanity Fair reporter, host of the Fast Politics podcast, and one of our many trial reporters, a strong team. Welcome to you both. Mona Lisa, welcome. Your first time on the beat. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you because, you know, the downside to the news is how much negative stuff we deal with. The upside, I believe, sometimes is we all get to learn different things. And so I showed both in pop culture and law how this works. You know all about it, but a lot of people may not know a ton about it. So just basically starting out, what would we know about a typical PO interview the way it would go down today for a first-time offender?
So before the pandemic, it would usually be in person. There's just a lot of questions to be asked as it relates to family history. Where were they born? How did they grow up? Socioeconomic statuses, military background, educational background, literally like bringing the entire life and putting it on paper.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty much everything that the defendant has been through, has gone through, what can affect them, if there's any mental health issues, any substance abuse issues, and stuff of that nature. And then, of course, we have the victim impact statement, if it applies, and then the probation officer's recommendations based on all of the evidence and the facts that they gathered.
And in your experience, do you find most people then are trying to engage in that cooperatively, to kind of put their best foot forward, or does it really depend?
For the most part, they do try to put their best foot forward because it'll help. Well, it can help and it can hurt, but for the most part, in my experiences, when I was a probation officer, pretty much everyone was cooperative. And they usually did not have a defense attorney with them.
Right, which we noted that distinction. So that's very interesting. Thank you. Stay with us. Molly's here with me in New York, and you look at this situation. We'll put back up on the screen, you know, those questions I mentioned, because, again, this is something that he's not exempt from. Even if he is, yes, a very famous person, they may have outside information, but as we saw in the trial as well, these are some of the questions: mental health, addiction, criminal associates I mentioned in the lead. As we saw in the trial, and people were reminded, It's not like, oh, have you heard of this person? Do you know who Hope Hicks or Michael Cohen is? No, this is actually a formal process of putting this information in the record. Your thoughts on what this would mean for Donald Trump as he absorbs, as he sinks in, that this is all real, that he is a convict?
Right. And I think that's really important. And that was something that I was struck by throughout the trial, was this idea that Donald Trump is having the experience that everyone else who is a normal American has. You know, you go, you sit there, you listen to the jury, you sit for the voir dire process. You know, his lawyer had the opportunity to get rid of jurors that he didn't like. The prosecution had the same, you know, he had the same experience that everyone else had. And that's part of him being held accountable. And that's what's so amazing about our system of justice and how it held, is that he really was not above the law in that. I mean, he has other trials that he's managed to punt. But in that case, and I think that was actually really meaningful. And when we talk about the institutions holding, that is an example of it.